Well, a very, very happy Wednesday here, and welcome to another episode of the TNC Sports Talk. My name is Justin. Today is November 19th of 2025. On today's episode, we will be taking a look at the NFL playoff picture heading into week 12 of the regular season. The questions that we will be presenting here are those of who's in, who's out, and who's in the hunt. We will also be taking a look at the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame bracket as new candidates have returned. We'll look at the names qualified to be inducted into this year's Hall of Fame, and based off of if they get voted in or not here at the beginning of next year, we will learn about all that fun stuff. I wanted to kick off the program, though, and just sharing some unfortunate news here today as we discovered for San Diego Padres fans that Hall of Famer and 1976 National League Cy Young winner Randy Jones died yesterday on Tuesday. The team announced he was only 75 years old. Said by the Padres, and I quote, "With deep sorrow and heavy hearts, the Padres mourn the passing of our beloved left-hander, Randy Jones. Randy was a cornerstone of our franchise over 5 decades, highlighted by becoming the first Padre pitcher to win the Cy Young Award. Inducted into the Padres Hall of Fame of 1999, his impact and popularity only grew in his post-playing career, becoming a tremendous ambassador for the team and the true fan favorite. Crossing paths with RJ and talking baseball or life was a joy for everyone fortunate enough to spend time with him. Randy was committed to San Diego, the Padres, and his family. He was a giant in our lives and our franchise history. We extend our heartfelt sympathy to his wife, Marie, and his entire Jones family during the difficult times. RJ will be greatly missed." So that was a statement sent out by the San Diego Padres. This was sent out. I never grew up on watching Randy Jones. I knew him through word of mouth, an icon, definitely a legend. You love hearing him speak for the Padres, good things, bad things. He was straightforward. Randy Jones, an incredible pitcher for the Padres, and will definitely be missed. Jones, okay, a Southern California native, was selected by the Padres in the fifth round of the 1972 MLB draft. He made his debut the next year and was immediately impactful, throwing 139 and two-thirds of an innings with a 3.16 ERA. As a rookie, Jones stepped into San Diego's rotation in June 1973 and was mainstay throughout the 1980s season, after which he was traded to the New York Mets. In 1976, Jones was a 22-game winner who led baseball in 40 starts, he completed 25 had 25 complete games in 315 innings, had a 2.74 ERA, and at one point tied Christy Mathewson's National League record by going 68 innings between walks. That earned him the first Cy Young in Padres history. Jones was arguably better than the one season prior, when he threw 285 innings with the league's leading 2.24 ERA. He finished second in the Hall of Fame Tom Seaver in the Cy Young. He finished second to Hall of Famer Tom Seaver in the Cy Young voting that year. A nerve issue in his elbow required surgery in 1977 and sapped Jones' effectiveness. All told, He went 92 and 105 despite a 3.30 ERA with the Padres from 1973 to 1980. And he remains the franchise all-time leader in innings with 1,766. 253 starts, 71 complete games, 18 shutouts. His 92 wins are the second most behind Eric Sho's 100. Joe's finished his career with 2 seasons with the Mets and a spring training audition with the Pittsburgh Pirates in 1983. He retired with 100 to 123 record with a 3.42 ERA, 2 All-Star game selections in 1975 and 1976, and the Cy Young. Jones recorded the save in the 1975 All-Star game and then started and won the 1976 All-Star game. Following his playing career, Jones mentored young pitchers, most notably Barry Zito. He had a restaurant and a car wash franchise in San Diego. He was active in charities and helped developmentally disabled children. Jones was diagnosed with throat cancer back in 2016. I'm looking at this resume, this career that Randy Jones left behind in the 70s for baseball. And I'm just kind of pondering over a time frame where baseball was really a different sport 50 years ago. And you see some numbers. It was common for starters to go out there every 2 to 3 days, pitch 400 plus innings in a season. And I'm thinking 71 complete games in his career. That's a lot of complete games. Then shutouts, 18 shutouts, I still think is a high number for any Major League Baseball player. We talk about the All-Star games where he saved the first year and then started and won the second year. And this is the legacy, the path. I think this kind of starts the tone. This is one of the first pioneers that came out of the San Diego's history. When you think about this team establishing back in 1969, and this is one of the first big names that really just pull away and highlight San Diego's past, current, and present, future. So I do my condolences on behalf of our show. We wish the absolute best to the family, friends, his wife, and may he rest in peace here. Talking about baseball, this is always an interesting time of the season. It's off season as players today look, whether you're being opt out of contracts or you're looking for another team or whatever, you're just trying to get ready for the next season, hopefully to beat those Dodgers. Hall of Fame comes to mind. And, we have newcomers, we have PE guys that are now, possibility to start playing into the Hall of Fame. So Hall of Fame is going to take place January 20th. Well, it's going to be the reveal of of the results. The ballot of the BBWAA portion of the 2026 Baseball Hall of Fame class was revealed back on Monday, featuring 15 returning players along with 12 newcomers. So that's 27. The list consisted of, and I'm going to read the names, so bear with me: Bobby Abreu, Carlos Beltran, Ryan Braun, Mark Buehler, Shin Chu, Edwin Encarnacion, Gio Gonzalez, Alex Gordon, Cole Hamels, Felix Hernandez, Torrey Hunter, Andrew Jones, Matt Kemp, Howie Kendrick, Nick Markakis, Daniel Murphy, Dustin Pedroia, Hunter Pence, Andy Petit, Rick Porcello, Manny Ramirez, Alex Rodriguez, Francisco Rodriguez, Jimmy Rollins, Chase Utley, Omar Vizquel, and David Wright. Players who receive at least 75% of the Hall of Fame votes are inducted into the Hall of Fame each year. Of those, remaining players need to receive at least 5% of the votes to stay on the ballot. After 10 tries, a player would be lapsed off the BBWAA. That doesn't mean the Hall of Fame hopes are permanently off the table. However, here's a lot more to know about baseball's Hall of Fame discussions over the next several weeks. But the reveal will be set the final results on January 20th, 2026. So out of those 27 guys I just mentioned, you have to have at least 75% votes to be considered into the Hall of Fame. You have 10, you have to, in order to be on the Hall of Fame, you have to be added to at least 5, you have to be at least have 5% of the votes to be added back again the following year. And then you have 10 tries. If not, you'll be lapsed after that. So here's a couple of takes here of 10 things to know, including newcomers of the Hall of Fame. Okay. Coming out at number 1. This isn't the only Hall of Fame vote this season. There are 2 separate Hall of Fame votes every single year. BBWAA votes is that one generally most discussed and is one that gets you labeled on the first ballot Hall of Famer. So these are part of discussions. Once players are retired for 5 years, they are eligible for this ballot once they have fallen off of the BWAA ballot. However, they go into a pool of potential candidates and join an error committee ballot. So it'll go, so let's say, I'm going to just use an example. Let's say Brandon Phillips, okay, former infielder for the Cincinnati Reds. He retired. He's gone for 5 years. He joins the BBWAA votes and no longer and falls off the ballot. Then his name joins the error committee ballots, which is also can include non-players like umpires, managers, executive pioneers, and so on. So he would be moved to a list that's more broad for players that did not make the Hall of Fame for whatever reason, but they are, and then you also got umpires and stuff like that. This offseason, Contemporary Era Committee will evaluate 8 former players whose greatest contributions came from 1980 and through present. Those 8 players are as follows: Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, Carlos Delgado, Jeff Kent, Don Mattingly, Dale Murphy, Gary Sheffield, and Fernando Venezuela. For induction, players must appear on the ballot of 12 of the 16 voters. Those results will be announced on December 7th. So that is what's taking place in this first round, this first section of Hall of Fame for Major League Baseball players for 2026. So coming up here in about, I'm going to say 3 weeks time frame, we'll learn about that. 2, the first time class isn't overwhelming. We've seen several first ballot Hall of Famers lately. 2025 class has CC Sabathia, Ichiro Suzuki. 24 had Adrian Beltre, Joe Mauer. David Ortiz made the cut in 22. This time around, we're very likely to not have anyone joining those ranks, just like 2023. Top candidates would be Cole Hamels. He went 163 to 122 with a 3.34 ERA, 1.18 whip, and 2,560 strikeouts in 2,698 innings of his career. He won the World Series back in 2008 and actually won the NLCS and World Series MVP that time around. He's won 4 All-Star. He was a 4-time All-Star and finished in the top 8 of Cy Young voting 4 times. Though he never higher than the 5th. The 59 WAR is similar to pitchers in Andy Pettitte, Mark Buehler, Chuck Finley, and Tim Hudson. After Hamels, there's Ryan Braun, and the strain of PEDs hasn't been treated nicely by voters with superior players. So it'd be hard to imagine to get much traction in this vote. There's Alex Gordon, Shin-Soo Choo, Edwin Encarnacion, Howie Kendrick, Gio Gonzalez, Matt Kemp, Mark Akis, Daniel Murphy, Hunter Prince, and Rick Porcello. The class of newbies might have 0 Hall of Famers, or might have just one in Hamill, but he'll take a long time. All right, Beltran's big chance. Carlos Beltran, as a player, has a resume that belongs in the Hall of Fame. His connection and leadership might be more accurate with the 2017 Astros sign stealing scandal seems to really ding him so far in the Hall of Fame voting. Then again, unlike with PEDs, the more distance everyone gets from the scandal, the more the feeling seems to be fading. And I get that. It's one of the biggest controversies of all time. Beltran got 46% last year, or in his first year, excuse me. The percentage rise to 57, and then the second year last year, which was his third, was 70. So upward incline. That already concluded that the new candidates of the ballots are unlikely to make much of a mark. Meanwhile, Ichiro Suzuki, CC Sabathia, Billy Wagner were cleared from last year's ballot after making it into Cooperstown. Among players not connected with PEDs, Beltran has the best on-field resume for anyone this time around. Andrew Jones desperately probably needs a big move. He's had 7%, 7.5, 19.5, 34%, 41.5%, 58%, 61.5%, and 62.2%. That's he's only gone up about 8-9 points per years, and that's 8 tries. He has 2 more years, and nothing's guaranteed. He's still a whole 10% away. Manny Ramirez is another big guy. As we talked about PEDs here in this Hall of Fame ballot. Ramirez is one of the greatest and most feared sluggers ever in parts of 19 seasons. He's batted .312 with a .411 slugging percentage. He's had 2,574 hits with 547 doubles, 555 home runs, 1,831 RBIs, 1,544 runs with a 69.3 WAR. He has a gaudy postseason resume. He also has 2 failed PED tests that results in suspensions. He got to his highest vote percentage last cycle, but it was only 34%. He's now in his 10th and final cycle. And he would need a miracle to get into this year's Hall of Fame. A-Rod's playing out the lock. A-Rod is in Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens territory in that he's an obvious all-time great to the point where we don't even need to lay out his numbers. You know them for himself. He once slapped a 211 game suspension, later reduced down to 162. MLB's by MLB due to PEDs. That's what I call a PED. and the scandal. This is only his 5th year on the ballot, but he's only about 37% so far. Clemens and Bonds plateaued in the 59s and 61s range up until they got around 66 last season. How big of a gain can Chase Utley make? Chase Utley, Philadelphia Phillies infielder, started off with 28% in 24, or in the first year, then moved up to 39. So he's climbing his way up. Gained a monster gain, considering the incoming class. Now you're also considering some of the bigger names, even though there's baggage on a lot of them, like Manny, A-Rod, Beltran, Jones also. Not so sure, though, that Chase Utley can make the significant leap, but if it continues to climb, there's an opportunity for that. We've seen rallies in recent years on players like Tim Raines, Larry Walker, Scott Rowland, Billy Wagner. Also considering that next season has only Buster Posey among likely least votes, and it seems like the Hall might come calling for Utley over the next 2 weeks. Let's talk about the starting pitching. With starters taking on lower and lower workloads, if we hold the same Hall of Fame standards that was before, so let's say the 1980s, we hardly get anyone in, a starting pitcher again in the Hall of Fame. As such, many of us voters have wanted to start lowering the bar to starting pitchers. How much progress is being made? Well, here's for starters the last voting cycle. Andrew Petit voted 27.9. He was eighth year on the ballot. Felix Hernandez, second year on the ballot, only had 20%. Mark Buehler had 11.4. Only Hamill, John Lester, David Price, Steven Strasburg's coming up in 2028. So starting pitching is going to be a storyline to watch. All right. Tracking the other holdovers, guys like Bobby Abreu, who's on the 7th year, Jimmy Rollins, Omar Vizquez, Dustin Pedroia, Francisco Rodriguez, David Wright, Torrey Hunter, all under 10% heading into this bracket. A lot of them are Omar Vizquez heading into his 9th year, or 10th year on the ballot. Bobby Abreu is heading up there. So is Torrey Hunter. The biggest at this point, it would be Wright and Hunter if they stay on the ballot or not. All right, down. Let's go to what I think prediction-wise holds. So I do see, it's very, I'm going to call it very political when it comes down to voting and all this fun stuff that we see here among the Hall of Fame. I've never quite understand the structure of Baseball Hall of Fame. But what I like about the Sports Hall of Fame is that there are reasonings behind why someone deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, whether it was their career, and they split them up within categories, whether it's their performance on the field, off the field, as a starting pitcher. I will tell you this, I do agree with one factor of all this, and that's the starting pitchers. Over the years, you first of all, I think there was a leverage if you played in the National League and you batted, you were able to maintain a decent batting average. I think that was a huge incentive on the shot. You had, you were asked to go every 5 days. Those, don't forget, just not too long ago, these were pitchers that went out every 3 to 4 days. Back in the day, pitchers pitched every other day. So that wasn't big. You also now consider Tommy John surgery, how much they, have taken out of that. It's a complicated decision because you run into those who have PED or substance or the part of scandals, and fraudulence of the season. You deal with those, if you don't, even your resume, the matter of the fact is there's so many players, that probably deserve in our eyes to be put into the Baseball Hall of Fame. But no matter, but these guys come down to the T. Not everyone goes in. For the longest time, guys like Roger Clemens and Barry Bonds and A Rod, they have, although they have a lot of success, they have hurt our image by about the way they went about their success and what they used to get there. Um, and though that is hard to support, over the years we have seen, voters move away from that and said, let's focus on what their accomplishment is. Let's refer back to guys like Pete Rose, for example, who probably deserves, out of anyone, deserves to be in the Baseball Hall of Fame. And yet, he was banned for baseball, just got reinstated after his passing earlier this year. And this is something that I hope down the road we could see him in Baseball Hall of Fame. Time does hopefully heal. Um, this group of guys, I like to see guys like Carlos Beltran on that list. He's a top name this year. Um, I'm just kind of scrolling through. Cole Hamels is another guy that I want to see be inducted this year specifically. Um, I don't know about Manny Ramirez, and I don't know about Alex Rodriguez. Dustin Pedroia is another name that I like to see this year. Um, Chase Utley, I don't know if he's gonna, either Chase Utley or David Wright would be another big name. Doesn't mean, look, a lot of these guys, you bring them up and you're like, yeah, they're all worth Hall of Fame guys in my books, but you're just not gonna get it. Not gonna get it. But so the purpose of this is we're going to see this here take place over the next few weeks, final ballot, and then you would have the ballot coming out for 2026 on January 20th in that concept. So, all right, that is all the time we have. I know I talked about possibly getting a football predictions up, playoff picture where they stand. I'm gonna have to save that until tomorrow. So make sure you stay tuned for tomorrow's drop. We'll recover the NFL playoff picture, where team stands, who's in and who's out. I want to thank everyone for tuning in and joining us wherever you guys get your podcast at. Be sure to head over to our YouTube channel at the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel, where you can follow our content closely, where we cover our podcast as well as gaming AI content. So we cover baseball, football, and wrestling. And until next time, thank you guys for tuning in. You guys have a wonderful rest of your day.